Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you ever wanted more peace and less conflict in your life, then do we have the How to Love the Haters, Everything is Here to Help You show for you. Today I'll be speaking again with Matt Kahn, one of my all-time favorite spiritual teachers and authors, and the author of Whatever Arises, Love That, and Everything is Here to Help You. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about why everything is here to help you, even the haters, and the challenging people in our lives. That, plus we'll talk about the flat earth theory and YouTube, oracle decks and pendulums, why you want to check both sides of your vision boards, and what in the world getting a thumbs down just when the video goes live has to do with anything. So welcome to the show, Matt. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready to shine, sir.
Woohoo!
Woo-hoo!
All right. Before we dive right into things, I think we both got our butts kicked after the last month or two. What happened health-wise to you, and how are you doing?
Well, thank you. I just have gone through such upgrades energetically, and I've also been traveling so much, and a lot of times, in the work that I do, transmitting energy on stage and helping people heal is something that's comfortable for me. But I think a lot of times, and for a lot of people, traveling takes so much out of us. And for me, I've been traveling so much and going through so many upgrades and expansions that I just needed a lot of time just to integrate and rest. And I think it all just really caught up to me, to be honest. And so I just needed more time to rest. And I've come out the other side feeling, pretty remarkably integrated. And I'm just excited to get back on the road and do what I do.
Excellent. And Jessica wanted me to ask, she was thinking about this, and she goes, why do spiritual people, we're going down the path, we're trying to stay in alignment, why do we get sick?
We get sick because we are more emotionally receptive and more emotionally aware. And I think that triggers our nervous system. And depending on how our nervous systems get triggered, is what informs the immune system that we need more time to rest and to integrate. And so I think that when we become conscious beings, there's the awakening on the mental level, the spiritual level, and the physical level is often the last thing to shift. When we are fully awake on a physical level, our nervous systems can process and go through experiences that doesn't inform the immune system that we're sick or less than or need to rest. But I think in the beginning of the process or along the process we're all in, I think that when we need drastic rest, when we need alone time, when we need to really be with ourselves for whatever reason, I think the suppression of the immune system is what forces us to take notice to the things that we often need a gentle reminder from the universe to do. And as we evolve, there is the possibility ultimately that we don't have to be sick in order to evolve and grow. But I think something I said this a couple of weeks ago. I think this is really interesting. The process of awakening and healing that heals us of our traumas is registered in the body as a trauma itself. So I think we're in a process where we are overcoming the cellular memory of traumas, but the body recognizes that change as its own trauma. So it's kind of an ironic thing.
Well, you're given a perfect description in, if we, I don't know, turn things 1 degree, of a vaccination.
Right.
So what
100%.
you're talking about is a spiritual vaccination.
I love that. That's a great way of putting it. So, as we bring in new energy and as the energy is contrary to the levels of consciousness and experiences we've had since we were children, the subconscious tends to perceive things that are foreign as a little bit of an invasion. And as we relax our nervous system and love our hearts and find safety within ourselves, we're able to open up to something that's different and foreign without perceiving it as a threat.
So awesome. So let's go from there. And actually, we're gonna kind of dovetail. I want to talk today about how we can love the haters. But you brought up something interesting about the sensitivity of, and I'm going to say that everybody who is your audience, who is my audience, anybody who's
Right.
attracted to this, is in that spiritual crowd, is on this path. We do tend to be more sensitive, and so more sensitive to criticism, more sensitive to the haters. I was giving a live show a couple weeks ago, and somebody called in, wrote in, in the chat, and was asking about, and it wasn't in a hater situation. It was about Notre Dame, which it just burned, or at least the roof had burned off that day.
Right.
And I couldn't help but start bawling right there during the call.
Mm.
And that's our sensitivity, isn't it?
Yes, it is our ability to be in tune and process on an emotional level the rhythm of changes that are occurring on this planet. That on this planet, as we evolve and expand, there are parts that guide us into certain levels of realization. There are certain parts of us that are meant to be with us for certain stages of our journey. And there are times when parts of us can't go any further. So when we are emotionally receptive, we are processing the death or the end of the old self and welcoming a new renewal of the newly expanded self. And to fully participate in that journey is to allow the emotional ups and downs to be moved through us in a very alchemical process. So there will be tears, there will be laughter, but we came to this planet to feel. Feeling is why we're here. Feeling is our way of fully participating in our evolution. So to be able to feel on an emotional level is among the highest privileges of what invites a soul into this planet. And then we come here and have to learn actually how to do it and how to feel safe in the process.
Thank you. And it's interesting that you say, in a sense, we're burning away the old, we're letting go of the old, which if
Yeah,
you come back to Notre Dame, you're looking at something that's, from what is it, 1350, 800 or 850 years old. And the letting
absolutely.
go of that is, like you're saying, a processing of a trauma itself in the letting go.
Absolutely. And I think, it's just so surreal when something like Notre Dame goes through such a change, and then the people witnessing it are equally experiencing a part of themselves being melted in the blaze. And for all of us, you know, each of us will experience our own spontaneous inner Notre Dames,
Yes.
because stress is like a heat. Adversity is a heat. And whenever there is the heat of stress, it is something of the old burning away in us. And when we're not fully present with this experience, we tend either to be shut down by life circumstances, or we lash out at others. And those of us who don't know how to process our experiences, those of us that don't understand the healing journey we're already on, that cause us to lash out at others, is the very recipe that creates the kind of haters that we're going to talk about loving today.
And what you're talking about here is a reframing or a new level of understanding, so
Yes,
that we view these circumstances and view the internal fires differently.
100%. And I think that if we all became aware of the type of internal fires, and for a lot of us, the kind of internal infernos that burn in the hearts of so many beings, to the degree that we as sensitive beings are probably going to be more in tune with the inner fires than the people that are actually in them. If we knew the kind of fires that were burning inside of the hearts of most people, we would actually hold space for their healing and pardon the behavior that is just their unawareness of how deeply they are transformed.
Beautiful. Thank you. So let's go from there. Let's talk about, either let's get into the haters directly, or let's set the stage. What is going on in the world today? Because I don't view it the same way that most do. I'm not viewing it as oh my God, look at what's going on in the world today. I'm going, oh my God, we're spiraling upwards.
Right. I think that what we're seeing is the eruption and expression of a lot of repressed energy.
Mhm.
And so a lot of us who didn't feel safe expressing the energy that got repressed and stuffed inside of us. Maybe because we were afraid of being rejected by a parent, maybe
Yeah.
we were afraid of further abuse and criticism or judgment or persecution. So we are finding the safest, and everyone has their own way of consciously doing this, but people are trying to find safe places to express all the energy in them that is bottled up within them. And of course, for most people, this is going to come out in a very unconscious and sometimes aggressive manner. And so we find that the recipe of a hater is someone who is trying to process their bottled up, unexpressed emotions in a rather unconscious way. And so we, as sensitive beings, have the opportunity to hold space for the healing of humanity. And I think the real key is that we send blessings and love, not as rewards for good behavior, but we think of those who are deserving of love are the ones who are in the most need of love. And those who are in the most need of love are often crying out for help, often attacking the innocence of those who have the conscious and light to help transform them.
It's making me think of, what is it, the mirror on the car. At least in the old days, it would say objects in the mirror are closer than they appear.
Yeah,
The lashing out, the word that's popping in my head is tangential. It is not the attack on whatever they're attacking. It's the inner attack that's really, as much as they're attacking the outer world, they're attacking the inner world because they're in so much pain.
absolutely. And I think that the pain is the inability for someone who's stuck in their shadow to to enter the light and feel safe that it's not going to be some sort of death sentence. So when we are attacked by a hater, it is someone who is saying, I feel so at odds with the light and I feel so threatened by the light that you who represents the light is actually pulling me out of my comfort zone just as I stand in your presence. So those who are attacking those of us that are in the light are basically just attacking the very change and evolution that they are afraid to let in. So it's an amazing thing to realize. And I'm a very public figure, so I've had most of the feedback I get is rather incredible, and every once in a while we get, a hater. But a
You ever
hater,
find the thumbs down person, the one who goes to you when that video first goes live and thumbs you down before even the first 10 seconds have aired?
every time I post a video or my team posts a video, there's one person within a minute of it posting that gives me a thumbs down. And it makes me laugh. It makes me laugh, but I know in my heart, a person that doesn't like me knows the least about me. And it is not me who they oppose because they don't know me. They're thumbsing down their idea of me, of what I represent to them. And what I represent to them is something outside of their comfort zone. So when someone doesn't like me, especially in the role that I play, it is me perceiving the persecution of a threatened heart. And all I can do is hold space and say, the light is here for you. You are forgiven. You are loved. May your dignity be restored from any experience that took your power. So that me as a public figure is not above anyone. I'm not here to do anything but give back the power to those who are ready to fully be free themselves.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Want to go back to this concept of being stuck in the shadow. And it's got me
Yeah.
thinking of years ago, I had some real blood sugar challenges, and I've gotten much, much better. But I can imagine if I'm in the middle of that internal angst, and blood sugar challenge is really just an amplifier. It's a magnifying glass of what's going on potentially inside of you. Your fight or flight nervous system is on overdrive. And Jessica would go to me and she would say, let's have you, first off, get food in you. And she might go to give me food and I might say, I don't want food right now. And she might say, well, then let's get you tapping. I don't want to tap right now. It is a microcosmic example of being terrified of coming out into the light, of wanting to get out of my shadow. What's going on and why do we have this inside of us?
The shadow is the part of ourselves that is so caught off from love, or has created such an association to love as love is a threat. Love leads to loss. Love leads to discomfort or potential harm, and is the part of ourselves that will only be truly nourished by love, but it is trying to find safety and solace, and pretending that the comfort and safety is found in the darkest corners of survival, of shutdownness. As if we buried our head into the sand, we would be freed of having to look at the things we can't look at. So I think what happens is that when we're stuck in the shadow, we are really just under a false impression that there is a therapeutic benefit to stagnation. And anything that your wife or anyone is going to suggest is to bring you out of stagnation, much like a child
Mhm.
who wants 5 more minutes to sleep before going to school and will constantly ask for 5 more minutes, and ultimately it's time to wake up. The 5 more minutes they get will never ultimately do anything but give them 5 more minutes of negotiating time.
Yeah.
So I think what we do is we really wake up out of the shadow. We're realizing that there is no therapeutic benefit to stagnation. It is just a way of amplifying patterns of laziness and lethargy. And it's actually moving in the opposite direction of the universe, because the universe is always moving through a rhythm of change. And as long as we are always willing to move in the direction of evolution, our energy is always expanding and growing. And there is just parts of us that don't want anything from life other than for things to stay exactly the way they are. And it never will be that way. And we have to really reconcile
Well, that's why when I look at haters and I see haters
that.
popping up, what I see is, in a sense, first off, I see an extremely wounded inner child. I can see their beingness. I want to give them a hug. I don't care whether they've got a submachine gun, a bomb, or whatever. I want to love them up, or carry a briefcase around. I want to, love them up like there's no tomorrow. But they are, in a sense, a backlash to the evolution, an attempt to hold, to me, to hold us, or to hold themselves for safety in the status quo.
Hmm. Well, in the shadow, there is the deeply ingrained belief that my happiness occurs only by getting my way. And most of the ways in which people want to get their way is to make sure that other people outside of them only act in the way they want them to act. So it's about, self-control. It's about dominating others. And ultimately, when we come into the path of surrender, what we realize is getting my way is not going to make me happy. What's going to actually make me happy is learning that getting my way isn't what I need to be happy. And there's a very big freedom in that. But the fear for a lot of people is, if I can be happy without getting my way, that means I'll never get my way. And the truth is, sometimes you do get your way, sometimes you don't. But when you don't need to get your way in order to be happy, you find that your ability to let go and surrender allows for a happiness to come from a deeper place and a more fulfilling place. And on the other side of it, it's quite a relief, and it's quite beautiful and extraordinary. But someone who's in the shadow making their way towards that threshold is just literally confronting change, just as someone who's afraid of dying. It's the same thing.
And it's interesting when you say you may not get your way, but if we peel away the layers and we look at what we're ultimately trying to get, one of the biggest things we're trying to get isn't the car, isn't the trophy wife, isn't the this, isn't the that, it's the
Mhm.
happiness. And if you let go, the happiness may just be there.
And that's what threatens most people, because most people have envisioned objects of their desire that they think have to be a part of their life in order to feel the way they desire. And if you said to someone, you may not get those objects, but you'll be happier than if you had those objects, most people would still feel threatened by that, because in our society, we've been trained to associate, I can only feel the way I want when I get the things I want. So it's a very deep, ingrained addiction to object consciousness, where we objectify our partners, we objectify our careers, we objectify our spiritual journey. We think of enlightenment as an object to seek, we think of wisdom as an object to collect. And when we are loving ourselves, when we are caring for others, when we are selfless, when we are present, and when we are mindful, we're actually waking up out of this belief in object consciousness. And instead of relating to each other as objects of desire, and instead of living as a robot only programmed to seek desire, when we do that, there is so much more of an emotional capacity that allows our soul and our light to be expressed on an emotional level. And it brings about such an angelic quality, and it really fulfills the universe's desire to know itself as a human being.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Since we're talking about angelic quality,
Mhm.
how do we bring our love to those who have threatened most, or even those who have committed atrocities? How do we bring our love even to those?
It's a great question. So, someone who has been hurt is either going to be a victim
Mhm.
who shuts down as a result of their pain, or someone who hides from that hurt by trying to take the hurt on other people. So, in either way, when we are victims or victimizers, and we've all played these roles throughout history, we are finding beings who, as a result of pain, have had their dignity stripped away. Someone who's capable of hurting another person verbally, on YouTube, physically, or otherwise, is someone who has been so stripped of their dignity, they are without the conscience to be in tune with someone else as an aspect of themselves. So, the way I like to do it, and I've done it as a meditation, I have it as a living practice. If I see someone on the streets who's lost in some sort of drug addiction, if I see someone screaming and going through their own internal terrors, if I see on the news a story of some unimaginable physical atrocity that someone did to another person, whatever it is. When I go to the gym, 'cause I really don't watch the news, but every time I'm at the gym, the TV in front of me is always on
Oh, the news
CNN.
chases
So,
you down. Yes.
right. So, whenever I see that, what I say in response is, may your dignity be restored. Because if every human being had their dignity restored, they would never do harm to another human being. So I think sometimes in our society, we get so mesmerized by the atrocious behavior of unconsciousness, and then we withhold the blessing of dignity until someone can earn it through good behavior. And then we perceive dignity or healing like a reward and a punishment. That if someone hurts another person, that person can't be rewarded with goodness. When in reality, someone who has harmed another person is so in need of their dignity being restored. And if we could actually just see that person and pray for that person, whether we say, I forgive you, or as I say, may your dignity be restored, the restoration of dignity would cause a human being to be present with their journey and not take their pain out on other people. So it really comes to a point in history where we have to break the cycles of abuse. And in order to do that, we have to pray that those who hurt others and harm themselves, whether we're talking about someone lost in an addiction or hurting other people, in moments of abuse, these are people who need their dignity restored. And it is our daily blessing to restore the dignity of the hurt that allow hurt people to not hurt other people anymore.
Woohoo! See, that this to me is such a key point. And
Yeah.
you said see another person as an aspect of themselves.
Mhm.
When we are helping restore someone else's dignity, it is helping all of us, isn't it?
That's right. Well, because, through ego consciousness, we say, oh, well, I'm a good person, but that person's a criminal. But it's not their criminal activity, it's our criminal activity. It's not their consciousness, it's our unconsciousness. We don't have to judge and blame ourselves for the actions of other people, but we have to look at other people as outer layers of our own infinite energy field. And so, where we find unsavory behavior is just where more blessings need to go. Each of us as individuals might be the nucleus of our energy field. We might be acting in a way that is very different from criminal behavior. But other people, distant aspects of ourself, are like the outer rings of our energy field that we haven't gotten to know. And if we see things that don't match with our values and our ethics, then that's where more blessings of dignity needs to go. And when we are participating in blessing others with the restoration of their dignity, it is us who is blessed simultaneously with the embodiment of our highest potential. And when we are acting as the solution, we are less mesmerized by the problems. And when we're less mesmerized by the problems, then we don't have to be sensitive beings who are triggered by others. We can actually be the liberators of those that are just trying to find their way back to the light.
It
Love it,
it
man.
it makes me think. So a big theme that I've been or kick I've been on lately has been, and I steal Ram Dass's term regularly, to snuggle up to the fear, to lean into the fear. What
Yeah.
you say is when they don't match with our values and ethics, that's where we need to go. So viscerally, when somebody on the quote news, what do I like to
Mhm.
call it? Negative worthless stimulation. When somebody in the negative worthless stimulation catches our ire, or we see something and we're revolted, we're so aghast or upset, that is where we actually have to crack wide open, go to the rescue right then and there.
Absolutely. I'll give you an interesting story about this. I was at a family function talking to someone who was just kind of like a friend of a relative who I hadn't really met. And they, and was at a party and this person had been drinking and was just kind of just let it all hang out.
Yeah.
And they started talking about their rather passionate political views.
Mhm.
And they were just going off and off. And I sat there for like 5 minutes listening to this monologue on their very specific beliefs. And I just turned to them when they were done and I said, I really love how passionate you are. And they just looked at me and they stopped. And what I had realized many years ago
Mhm.
is that when people talk about their political views or their social views or their spiritual views,
Yeah.
if you're in an ego, you are under the impression that you have to respond to them with whether you agree or you don't agree. And then you're actually just two belief systems trying to have a conversation with each other. My job is to actually not allow someone's beliefs to get in the way of valuing and honoring them because their deep political beliefs is what they're hiding behind. And they're showing me a child in their heart that is unsafe to come out of hiding until their inflated personality gets approved of. And because they've never found approval, they're going to project some rather interesting, passionate beliefs that almost cause people to reject them in a self fulfilling prophecy of rejection. And so my job is to listen to the person and just say, I really love how passionate you are. It doesn't matter whether I
Beautiful.
agree or disagree. That's beside the point. What matters is that that person can be valued and honored and respected. I'm not going to say I agree with them if I don't, but I'm never going to allow someone's beliefs to get in the way of me, of honoring and valuing the innocence in their heart, no matter how out of touch they are with it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I like to say, don't play ping pong with them. Don't
Yeah,
hit the ball back. And you're saying
never.
instead, send them love, recognize them, see them for who they are. What do we do when we have a hater in the workplace? A coworker, for instance, that's on the attack.
The simplest answer,
Yeah,
and what will sound like the most insane answer, but the
I
most
like it.
transformative, when you have a hater who hates on you, say thank you. And it's actually like spiritual aikido, and I've
Mhm.
actually had this experience where I actually had someone come up to me and said, I totally disagree with what you just said, and it was, they just had this very fundamental spiritual belief that I guess my teaching at the time was rubbing up against in them. And I looked at them and I said, thank you. And they said, for what? I said, well, thank you for letting me know how differently you think. And thank you for sharing with me your experience. And they said, well, are you going to change your approach? And I said, oh, absolutely not. I'm not going to change anything, but I thank you for what you're giving me and I'm receiving you fully. And I think what would be interesting for everyone on this call, what would happen if you said thank you to any kind of judgment? On the surface, you would think that you'd be telling them that this behavior is okay. But what you're doing on a subconscious level, by saying thank you, you're acknowledging that there is some value for the interaction. Even if the interaction occurs through the law of polarity, where someone's negativity causes you to respond with thank you, which is the anchoring of the vibration of gratitude. And right then and there, you've transmuted their poison, turned it into the vibration of gratitude, and just taken a vibrational supplement. So if we think smarter than hatred, Someone's hatred comes towards you, that's poison. You say thank you. Anytime you say thank you, your subconscious mind says, this must be good for me. And it will literally turn their energy into something good for you because you told yourself thank you. And you just transmuted that energy. And you also vibrationally expose their mirror neurons to a higher vibration to give them a chance to be different than they've been before. So it's actually one of the most sophisticated tactics there are, is that if someone says something not nice to you, we smile, we say thank you, and we move on. We don't allow ourselves to be moving targets. We're not emotional doormats for people. But when you say thank you in the response to something that is not feeling good to you, you take it in as something beneficial. And oftentimes when our feelings get hurt, it's not because of what someone said to us, it's because of what we don't say to them, which is thank you.
So I'm working this through. I think this is absolutely brilliant. I'm working this through. Let's say somebody has social anxiety or work anxiety. They're afraid if I go in, if I meet with my mother-in-law, I'm going to be under attack.
Yeah.
I'm gonna freak out. So in advance we go, I'm just gonna say thank you.
We even start with thank you to thoughts of anticipation. Start with our fears, because right now, if someone was anticipating that, before they could rehearse the thank you that they would do in that moment, they would first say thank you to the hater of their own mind. Sometimes the haters that live in our own mind are just the fearful things we anticipate. So if we're anticipating, with your example, a mother-in-law, then we say to our mind, thank you for sharing this with me. I understand what you're afraid of, and I love you for sharing your secrets with me. Your secrets are safe with me. I love you. And then as we relax into that space, if you enter the space, and with the example, if the mother-in-law turned out to be someone who was judging and critical of you, we look them in the eye to the best of our ability and we say, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me. And what we find is our experiences are not defined by what people say to us. Our experiences are defined by how we respond.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. On that note, I love that you brought up our inner critic for a moment, the haters
Yeah.
in our mind. How do we love up even them?
Because even someone who's first of all, if there was real hatred inside each of us, that hatred wouldn't even acknowledge us. So the fact that it's talking to us means that we have the power of acknowledgement that it wants. It's kind of a game. If someone's hating on you, and if they found you to be despicable, they wouldn't even acknowledge your presence because they'd be already shut down and you'd be invisible. So when we have negative self-talk, we think to ourselves, if I really was what my mind says I am, it wouldn't even acknowledge me. It would keep walking. But the fact that it's just sitting and just saying all these negative things is because the mind wants to be acknowledged. It's afraid that if it's on its best behavior, right? What's the biggest fear for the shadow? The biggest fear is I'm going to come out of hiding. I'm going to bring my best qualities. I'm going to try my hardest, and I'm still going to get rejected. That's the biggest fear. That's the biggest rejection there is. So to deal with that, the shadow acts the worst, getting the attention of the one it wants to be validated by. And then if it gets rejected, it goes, well, of course I was rejected. I was acting like a so-and-so. And so it's kind of like this weird defensive strategy of self-sabotage. And so when we have negative self-talk, we stop and acknowledge it. We say, thank you. Thank you for sharing with me all the things you've either been said that have been said to you by other people, or thank you for projecting onto me all the things you're afraid that people are going to project onto you. Thank you for sharing your secrets with me. And if we really can think from the space of love, the mind is not trying to criticize you. It's trying to share its fears with you like it's a secret. And if we can respond like, wow, thank you for trusting me with your secrets. If you said that to your mind, you'd be surprised how easily things would unravel. So when we get inundated with negative self-talk and criticism, if we say, thank you for sharing your deep, dark secrets with me, I really appreciate it. Please share as much as you want. The more permission we give, the more space is created to help the shadow integrate.
Is this the this is brilliant too. Is this the same thing we want to do? Because what you really did is you just diffused the bomb.
Yeah,
Is this the same thing that we want to do on top of saying thank you to others? The same thing we want to do to diffuse the haters in our lives as well. Really, it's befriending them.
100%. I would say that what melts the shadow
Mhm.
is a full commitment to politeness. And when you can attain a gangster level of politeness that I have been blessed to cultivate throughout my spiritual life, there is a level of politeness that, when conveyed with complete authenticity and openness and commitment, will stop someone in the midst of any tirade and will help them forget the strategy they have to limit your experience.
Woohoo! All right, I've
Woohoo!
got to quote you on this. Gangster level of politeness. Jessica
Yes.
always wants me to ask a question for parents and their kids. How do we bring a gangster level of politeness? I can't believe I'm going to ask this to bullying.
Well, the first thing is, I think when we have children that are being bullied, is we want to make sure that we are putting our children into situations where they can be safe.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
think that, oftentimes what helps to heal bullying is giving bullies less people to control and to take advantage of. So I think that there are conversations we can have with our children about why bullying exists and why people take their pain out on other people,
Mhm.
and the healing journey that we all have with our children to help them heal those wounds. But ultimately, it is important that when a child is being bullied, that a parent listens to the feedback of their children and does anything they can to put them in a safe environment, whether that's move them to a different school, whether that's homeschool them. A parent's job is to keep their children as safe as possible so they have the greatest opportunity to grow and evolve. And I think that, there are rare occasions when you can sit down with parents and your children, right? The victim and the bully, and there can be a come to Jesus kind of conversation and things can get resolved. But most of the time, when we're talking about bullying activity, we just want to remove our children from the hands of those who are just trying to dominate. That healing process for a bully is going to be a much longer journey of realization. And we just have to think in a proactive way of what can I do to keep my child safe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How are your book is entitled Everything is Here to Help You. And I want to ask
Yeah.
in a minute where people go to find that. How are the haters here to help us?
Well, I can tell you in my own life,
Yeah.
I was someone who was bullied at a very young age. And I was always someone who I've always had a very healthy level of confidence. Probably years before I probably had anything to be confident about. But I've always been a very confident person. And I have also been bullied when I was in school for many years, particularly in middle school.
Mhm.
I was bullied. And what I found that bullying did for me, aside from create an extraordinary amount of pain, which made me very emotionally receptive and in tune with my feelings.
Mhm.
But bullying in the beginning when I was in middle school was very painful because it was isolating. There were a group of people who band together and they decided what they had in common was not liking me. So I felt rejected, isolated, and alone. And it's all that time I spent alone as the most unpopular person in this situation that forced me into deeper connection with myself. So I am someone who helps to heal the inner bully of every awakening heart. And I'm not sure that I could have become as potent and powerful as I was without the journey that got me here. So at the time, I didn't know how bullying was helping me. But looking back, it is those who stripped me of my dignity at a young age that helps me to give back and return the dignity of those who are healing and awakening right now. So I can't say at the time it was very pleasurable, but I can look back and say that it was a crash course in the type of work that is the purpose of my being.
All steering, all guidance.
Yeah,
and all as you've taken, and we can make that choice as well to crack the heart open and even more, even if in the moment that is not exactly where you're going.
absolutely. And I think that, one of the biggest things I learned from bullies is from bullies, I learned that there are a bunch of passionate people that stood for what they're against. And I saw that at a very young age, they had a certain amount of power to hold me down and suppress me. And at a certain point of my life, I saw the power that they were misusing. And I realized if these people can be this powerful, being passionate for what they're against, how much more powerful can I become when I focus on what I'm for? And so, what I spent my life doing is standing for truth and for love and unity, and standing for that with more conviction and more passion than any person who wanted to oppose me. So, ultimately, it was that type of behavior that strengthened and fueled me. But instead of being against something, it's only what I'm for. And that's what led to the love revolution.
So, to butcher, please forgive me, a quote from Mother Teresa, if you
Yeah,
have an anti war rally, I won't be there. But
right.
if you have a pro peace gathering, count me in.
I love it.
Where can people go to find your beautiful book, Matt, and to find out more?
Everything is here to help you, whether it's a hardcover edition, it's in the next few months, it's coming out in paperback, and it's
Yep.
also available as a Kindle and on Audible. You can go to Amazon.com and you can enjoy it. And there's all sorts of activations and clearings. And it's really an interactive journey from the ego into the soul. And it's really just, I wrote the book as giving everyone the most heart centered way to really take a quantum leap into a new dimension of reality.
Beautiful. And do you have a website that you want to share with people as well?
Absolutely. For you can sign up for my newsletter and get a free energetic activation. You
Yeah.
can check out my upcoming events, join me in person or via live stream, and it's all available at mattcahn.org.
And if you didn't catch mattcon.org, come on over to inspirenationshow.com. We'll get you over to mattcon.org. Before we dive into a meditation, actually, I've got two last things before we dive into a
Yeah.
meditation here. First off, what does, hmm, well, it's almost a two part. I want to know what's unconditional love and what's the purpose of love at this time.
Mm. Unconditional love is the willingness to honor the light in others, whether they're acting from their light or aware of it or not.
Beautiful.
Unconditional love is how the divinity in us recognizes its light in others and in the world. And the purpose of love on this planet right now is to embrace all perspectives, all beliefs, all genders, all ethnicities, all lifestyles, all belief systems, and to say that we all have the right to be as we wish, and we all have the right to have our dignity restored. We all have the right to live a life of flourishing abundance, fulfillment, and joy, and we all have the right to shine as brightly as possible, equally on the same infinite stage where no one has to be less than. We can all truly shine together as one. And so this is really the purpose of love, is to bring us together into a planetary celebration of unity consciousness. And in order for that to occur on a planetary level, it begins by loving ourselves. The more we love ourselves, the more loving of a planet we seem to perceive.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
You are speaking my language. Any last words you want to share, Matt, before we dive into meditation here?
Just that, I think that when someone in my position says these things, I'm not saying these things because I think every human being should adopt this as a belief system. I'm creating and I'm naming a trajectory of where every human being will go. How many lifetimes for every person it will take is their own choice and destiny. So when you hear things like everything is here to help you, or whatever rises love that, really the invitation is, how close can you get to this authentically without judging yourself for where you are in the process? So I'm not sitting here asking everyone to blindly love in a way that doesn't feel authentic their experience. Sometimes you're going to love and sometimes you won't. But if you can always embrace and honor and love you as you are, whether you are measuring up to your expectations or not, I think just judging ourselves less is going to bring more love to the planet ultimately. And so, really, when I say these things, it's not to try to abandon where we're at and pretend this is where we're at. And if it's where we're at, that's wonderful. But really, to authentically say, how close can I get to this? So, even if I just judge myself a little bit less, just a little bit less judgment only means more love for the planet.
It all matters, and I'm convinced doing that even to a fractional amount. And I know everybody listening today is doing the best that they can,
Yeah.
and will be amplified by this talk. But even if we do it only fractionally, we are help healing, we are help growing, and to quote your word from much earlier, we are helping the evolution of everyone on this planet.
Even if we were to say to ourselves, I don't know how to stop judging myself, to say to yourself, I don't know how to stop judging or I don't know how to start loving, in that breath, no one else is further judged. So even just the question of I don't know how to stop judging or start loving means less people are judged, including yourself. So even that is a step forward.
And that is huge. And, of course, a mighty woohoo!
Woohoo!
On that note, I'm loving this, Matt. Would you mind sharing a guided meditation, anything of your calling right now with us?
Sure, let me see. It wants to come through.
And if you're driving down the road, do this afterwards.
Yeah, you're driving on the road. Pull over, please. Well, just going on, piggybacking on what I just said, as a contemplation and meditation, whether, just to hear the words that I say right now and consider them. When you confess what you don't know how to do, you are creating a space where less judgment and pain exists. And where there's less judgment and pain, only more love can flourish. I don't know how to stop taking things personally. I don't know how to not be hurt by other people's judgment. I don't know how to stop anticipating criticism for others. And the minute you say, I don't know how to something that you authentically wish you could change, but really don't know how to change, you are asking the bigger part of you that is called the universe to work through you and do it for you. And from that, I don't know how, we then allow the universe to bring to us all that it already knows to do, that's already been done. And just as quickly as we say, I don't know how, we then move into the vibration of gratitude. Thank you for showing me how to release anger. Thank you for ending judgment on my behalf. Thank you for showing me the love I already am. Thank you for helping me recognize the light in others and be immune to their poison darkness. Thank you for doing for me what I couldn't work hard enough to do. Thank you for being the everything that I am. Thank you for being the all I will ever need. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And through this meditation, what we find is that I don't know is an entry point into surrender. And as long as we can surrender what we truly don't know how to do or change, the universe then immediately works through us to change it on our behalf. And then we go into the vibration of gratitude, saying, thank you for a universe that is only here to serve our highest evolution, no matter how things look or appear. From I don't know to thank you. That is the shift of the ages.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Matt, this has been phenomenal. I love having you on the show. I love our
Thank
discussions.
you.
I never know where they're going to go, but they are always go in the most beautiful way. So I cannot thank you enough.
You're welcome. It's an honor to be here with you. You're an amazing soul, and I'm just so grateful and It's great. It's amazing in both of us to see what a little bit of childhood hatred can create.
I'm thinking of myself being locked in a locker right now.
That was your first meditation. It's a little extreme.
But it was there for our highest good and the highest good of all.
And you know why we can say that now? Because you found your way out of the locker.
This is true. I did. I did. And maybe you can say that the tin of the locker, boom, 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 hurts less than the blows to the skin.
It certainly does. It certainly does. Yeah, I was bullied when I was a kid, and I don't make light of it in any way. But looking back, it challenged me to really find myself. And I was thankful that although I was bullied, it was mostly verbal and emotional, which still hurt, of course. But I think of all the people that have ever been not nice to me. And I've spent many times in my life thanking them and praying for their salvation and restoring their dignity. And I can just tell you and everyone on this call that whenever it's time for me to make my way from this dimension into the next level, there will be nothing but gratitude and joy awaiting me, and with nothing but gratitude and joy for all who come my way, just as I do right now. So it's a very beautiful feeling to be that complete.
I love it. When I was a kid and I was bullied significantly myself, I can remember one of the craziest things I thought is when all these bullies one day wanted to fight me, I thought, let's get them all together at the same place at the same time. And they're such Neanderthals, they'll just beat on each other. And I snuck out the back door. They found me, and boy was I in for a beating that day. But what was interesting to me now, I think about it occasionally now, and I only have love in my heart for them now, more or less. I realized they're a representation of myself, and they needed healing too, and that I was part of that dance. That doesn't mean everybody is, but I know my response could have been quite different. With that said, I couldn't hit them hard. And I have thought about this. Why couldn't I hurt another person? And I think it was just part of the wiring or what I came in with, or what we're all here to expand is I couldn't hurt another being. I just couldn't do it, which is interesting. My ego, or whatever we want to call it, will attack me left, right, and center, but I could not hurt another person.
Because ultimately we are all connected as one. And in order to hurt another human being, how drastically does one have to forget themselves in order to hurt another person? You couldn't forget yourself on the most fundamental spiritual level in order to take that on a person. You couldn't get so lost in the play to be able to play that role. I couldn't do it either when I was a kid. I got attacked and I would take it. I would think, okay, they're going to eventually get tired of beating up someone that's not going to fight back. And eventually the kicks and the punches will stop coming, which only happened like on 2 occasions in my life. It was very quick because I wasn't much of a challenge for anyone on that level. And for me, there was a very deep spiritual part of me that I didn't at the time know what it was, but that just refused to fight back. And if it had come down to their life or mine, I would have gladly said goodbye. I can't ask people to think like that, but that's just the way I live. And that's the only way I know how to be. And I think it's the same for you, because we came here on a vibrational mission. Pain will stop. The body will heal. But I would never be able to live with myself if I intentionally inflicted harm on another human being. And that's just the way I live my life, just like you.
That is exactly. And yeah, I love you, Matt. I don't know what else
I
to
love you
say.
too. I love you too, brother. You're amazing.
It goes both ways. Big hug. Big hug.
Big hug.
All right. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get everything is here to help you. And everything, and everyone is here to help you. Begin loving up those haters today and shine bright. Woohoo! I love you, Matt.
Love you too, bro. That was good.
That was awesome. That was awesome. That is going to help a lot of people, and I'm so glad that you shared on the bullying side of things, because particularly in this internet day and age, it is worse for our kids than ever, and for all of us. There is cyberbullying now today.
Absolutely. So, we're just, step by step, we're gonna bring this to light, and we're gonna end this.
I'm gonna quote you on that.
We're gonna end it. Exactly.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!